Don't Move is Netflix's latest horror thriller about a toxic agent that completely paralyzes your body in 20 minutes. In other words, what happens to me when my girlfriend gets me to watch Emily in Paris.
Well, now you're just being dramatic.
Produced by Sam Raimi, Don't Move follows Iris, a grieving mother struggling with the death of her son. The very first shot of the film is of this upside-down cliff, an apt image considering our protagonist's world has literally been turned upside down. It hasn't been long since Iris lost her son who fell off this very cliff, and she feels tremendous guilt in his death, not keeping an eye on him as he fell to the rocky depths below. Perhaps it's just coincidence her name is Iris, the part of the eye responsible for controlling the amount of light that enters, similar to these clouds giving way in the film's final act, letting the light from the sun wash over her. The cliff itself becomes a metaphor for Iris's own internal struggle. It represents both the grief and guilt she feels for the death of her son, and one that must be overcome if she is to truly move on with her life. The setting of Big Sur State Park and its loneliness and isolation also matches this internal struggle. Although she does have a husband who we see briefly in the beginning, he has no lines and is merely an ornament in this story. Our first shot of Iris is her unable to sleep. That's because she knows this is the day she's going to end her life, and she plans to do so by jumping off the same cliff her son fell off, a kind of morbid way to become closer with him. You'll notice she carries around with her this red boat, one of her son's toys that represents her inability to let go. It's a reminder of her son. She carries it everywhere she goes. It is only in the final act of the film, when Iris finds the strength to live, that she is separated from the boat as it floats away, symbolic of her letting go of the pain and guilt of losing her son. Iris's house is shot in these cold, depressing blue colors, almost devoid of any light at all. Contrast this to the end of the film, which is far more warm and saturated. You'll notice Iris leaves her phone here. In most horror thrillers, you'd be smacking your head, asking yourself why our main character would leave without a phone, but here it makes perfect narrative sense. She doesn't need her phone because she has no intention of coming back. She is going to jump off that cliff. Mere moments from thrusting herself off it, a man by the name of Richard shows up, a fitting name since he's kind of a dick. It's also pretty cheeky that they have him showing up alongside this cliff eating a Cliff Bar, which they've actually had to rename for legal purposes to a Ridge Bar. Richard isn't his real name. He'll tell the old man and later police officer that his name is Andrew. And he actually has an ID for Andrew, which might be his real name unless it's a fake, but for the purposes of this video, we'll refer to him as Richard. Richard's able to literally talk Iris off the cliff by recounting a story about losing his wife Chloe. She died in a car crash while he survived and spent the next 2 months confined to a hospital bed. He was unable to move, just like Iris will soon be, but he found the strength to carry on. Iris opens up, stating that the part she hates most about all this is the inability to cry.
I want to, but I'm broken.
Crying would be accepting that her son is gone. It's not that she's broken, it's that she refuses to move on. That's why it's so poignant at the very end of the film, she breaks down and cries. Having decided not to end her life, Iris and Richard make their way back to their cars, where Richard has purposely parked his vehicle extremely close to hers, even though there's plenty of room in that lot. This is because he plans to trap her in there and use a taser before administering the drug that will slowly shut down all her motor functions. The drug, which remains unnamed in the film, takes roughly 20 minutes to reach its full effect. By minute 1, your fine motor skills start to go. Minute 10, your legs tingle and your gross motor skills fail. By 15, your legs give out. 18, labored breathing. And 20, your voice. What I find most terrifying about this is your brain, vision, and hearing still work. You just become trapped in your own body, unable to do anything. Throughout the film, we get little clues into why Richard does what he does. Glimpses into his psychology, so to speak. We learn that Iris isn't the first person he's done this to, and that he only targets women. In fact, he'll later tell Iris that before the events of the film, he's never killed a man. He spends the weekend with these women before killing them, but we don't know exactly what he does with them in his secluded cabin. The only bit of information we get is this one line where he states he's going to braid Iris's hair. It's very much implied that he intends to turn his victims into his dead lover so that he can relive the moment she died. He even mentions how Iris looks like her.
Was she pretty?
Very. You remind me of her.
It isn't until the film's final act that Richard reveals just how truly unhinged he is. He states that all his life he felt disconnected, and it was seeing his lover take her final breath that he finally felt that connection. While he laid in his hospital bed unable to move, he came to the realization that he didn't feel God that night, he was God. So this guy operates on the basis of power and control. Later, Iris will ask why, if he was just going to kill her, why didn't he let her jump off that cliff? While we never get a straight answer to this question, I think it goes back to this idea of power and control. He wanted to get her away from that ledge because he wanted that control over her. Perhaps the most shocking revelation is that Richard has a family. While making his way to the cabin, he gets a call from his wife and daughter stating that they're on their way up to the cabin to celebrate his daughter's report card. According to his wife, Richard has these weekends away to, quote, be the best version of himself he can be. He tries to weasel his way out of them coming up, which suggests they know nothing about his double life as a serial killer. Unfortunately for Iris, he's unable to prevent them from coming up, which means he'll have to speed up the timeline of her death.
It's a shame we had to skip right to the end. We could have had such a nice weekend together.
Throughout the film, Iris and Richard play this cat and mouse game where she manages to escape only to get caught again. She has gone from wanting to end her life to fighting for it. This adventure sees her floating through rapids, escaping a burning building, and witnessing the murder of a cop, all while unable to move her body. Ultimately, Iris is led to the middle of a lake on a boat, a fitting image considering it's her son's toy boat she's been clinging to this entire film. In fact, it's Iris who asks Richard to retrieve the toy from her pocket that allows her to grab his knife and stab him through the face. With her motor functions starting to come back, she's able to fight him off, and in the scuffle, grabs his gun and shoots him in the chest and leg. But the gunshots create holes in the boat and it slowly begins to sink, leaving us to wonder whether Iris has regained enough of her motor function to make it back to the surface. Her rise to the top is a baptism of sorts, a rebirth into the new woman she has become. At the start of the film, this was a broken woman, unable to cry and unable to get over the death of her son, and found the only way to do that would be to end her life. Now she has overcome this almost insurmountable obstacle and found the strength inside her to fight. But that still leaves us with Richard, who's made it to shore barely alive. Iris could kill him here, but she doesn't. Why let him live? The first theory is that he's going to die shortly anyway. He's got a major wound to his face and was shot twice, but I happen to like this next theory better. Earlier in the film, Iris tells Richard that he can't be doing this forever. Eventually, he's going to get caught and lose the most important thing to him in his life, his daughter. This is a fate worse than death, to live not only unable to see her child, but hated by them. Iris wants him to feel that pain of losing a child like she went through the pain of losing hers. The last line of the film is Iris saying thank you, which has a double meaning. First, it was the same line that Richard said to his wife in the car crash before she died, so it's kind of a cheeky F you to him. Second, it was only through him that she found the strength not to end her life. The movie ends with Leslie Gore's song, You Don't Own Me, an apt choice considering earlier in the film Richard referred to Iris as his possession. While Don't Move is about a woman escaping a murderous psychopath, it's also a movie about escaping the confines of grief. But what did you think? Was this a worthy thriller? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.